Welcome, everybody. It is now 2 o'clock and we are beginning our study session. Today is Thursday, March 14th. And we call to order. And the first topic is the 2A study session on traffic assessment and studies of El Paseo raised mid-block crossing and University dog park parking options. Which will we be taking first? Perfect. So we will begin with the University Dog Park. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Honorable Mayor and Council members. Bassam Al-Bitawi, Senior Project Manager, Public Works Department. Staff has recently completed 2 traffic assessment studies. The first one is the University Dog Park, and the second one is El Paseo Race Crosswalk. So I would like to start with the University Dog Park study. I'm going to go over the reasons why we studied the dog park and shown the existing conditions, alternatives that we come up with, and recommendation made by staff. University Dog Park, when it was built in the early 2000s, it was intended to be as a neighborhood park for the area surrounding it. However, over the years, the surrounding area has grown up very rapidly. Currently, there are more than 1,890 residential units that are being built, and we expect to see an addition of 5,800 units within the next 10 years. This is almost an increase of 308% from the current residential units. As the increase in residential units it's been requested by residents of the area that additional parking is needed for the dog park. So we initiated this study to assess the possibility of installing additional parking. Currently, the University Dog Park is sitting on the southwest corner of College Drive and University Park Drive on the north side of the city. There are no parking on both sides of the streets on College Drive and University Park Drive. University Park Drive and College Drive share the same roadway characteristics. They're both 46-foot wide from curb to curb with 11 foot of travel lane in each direction and a 6-foot bike lane on both sides of the street with a raised 12-foot median island separating the 2 directions of traffic. However, speed limit on University Park is 35 miles per hour, and on College Drive, it's 40 miles per hour. Here's the photo showing the existing parking lot for the dog park. And this is another shot looking north from University Park towards the parking lot of the dog park. So based on the study we performed, staff has come up with 3 alternatives for possible additional parking spaces. The first alternative is to build a parking pocket on the south side of College Drive. This alternative will provide us with 8 additional parking spaces, of which 1 is an ADA space. However, because this particular location is sitting very close to a slope, there will be a lot of earthwork required as well as retaining wall to keep the parking level at the street level. So the cost of this option comes out to about $710,000 or almost $88,000 per parking space. Alternative 2 is to build a parking area above the dog park. This parking area will have vehicular access from College Drive, and it will have a pedestrian access from the existing pathway shown here in the red line in the picture. This option will provide us with 34 additional parking spaces, of which 2 will be ADA spaces. However, just like the first alternative, this alternative is going to be built very close to a steep slope, and therefore a lot of earthwork and retaining wall will be required to stabilize it in place. This alternative comes at the cost of $2.14 million, or almost $62,900 per space. Alternative three is the street parking, and this is that will be on University Park Drive between Baylor Way and College Drive. In order to install on-street parking on this section of the roadway, we have to remove the existing median island as well as the bike lanes on both sides of the street. We will be diverting bicycle traffic into the sidewalks, and that would provide us with 42 additional parking spaces on both sides, almost 21 per side of the street. However, if we go with this alternative, we need to install a mid-block crosswalk. This crosswalk will have the rectangular rabbit flashing beacons, also known as the RRFB units. And this alternative has two options. Either we can go with the raised crosswalk or just a striped crosswalk. If we go with the striped crosswalk, the cost will be around $440,000 or $10,500 per space. If we go with the raised crosswalk, the cost comes out to almost $700,000 at about $16,500 per space. And here's a summary of the alternative that we just presented and the total cost of all. So with alternative one, the parking pocket, we're looking at an additional 8 parking spaces and at a cost of $88,800 per space, or a total of $710,000. Alternative two is the parking area above the park, and that will give us 34 additional spaces at a cost of $62,900 per space, or $2,140,000 total. Alternative three, depending on whether we're going with a raised crosswalk or just a striped crosswalk. If we go with the raised crosswalk, that again will give us 42 spaces, and the cost will be $16,500 per space, or a total of $694,000. If we go with a regular striped crosswalk, the cost will come down to $10,500, or a total of $440,000. With that, I conclude the first part of my presentation and questions.
Can you go back to that prior slide?
This one?
Yes, please. So with on the street, and I think is it University Park Drive where we would be putting the crosswalk?
Yes,
What's the speed limit on that street?
35.
That is 35.
Yes.
Okay. That was my only question at this point.
I had another question, maybe alternative four. You had a slide that showed a parking lot to add.
Alternative 3A, this one?
No, the one where you did the park, where you would do a parking lot with the most spaces for
Okay.
2.1 million.
This one.
Right. And what if we didn't do a formal parking lot? And I think of the tennis gardens, for example, when they have the tennis tournament and different things, they have overflow parking and it's just basically on dirt, or I'm not suggesting we do grass, but some sort of ground cover. Could that be an option that people just park?
I haven't looked into that option, but the issues we have here is the steep slope area.
Okay.
Even if we do an informal unpaved parking lot, we still have to do massive earthwork to really flatten out the parking lot and make it accessible for traffic.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so in order to, on alternative three, in order to get those 42 parking spaces, what sort of length or distance are we talking about along University Park? Quarter mile, half mile?
From Baylor Way to College Drive, it's about 800 feet in total.
Oh, okay. And this is a little bit outside what you presented today. However, from what I understand, the 27-acre park we're going to have on the north side of the city, the PASEO park, will have a dog park. So I'm just wondering, long-term, on alternative 3 could be reversed if the pressure on that dog park is alleviated by virtue of having a doggy park on the north end, another dog park on the north end of town. It's just food for thought that maybe somebody else could answer. But maybe, and again, we're going to have another larger park coming in, Frank Sinatra and Portola, which may add a dog park. So, but just thinking down the road. Thank you.
It could be reversed by removing the parking
Exactly.
spaces and just,
Right. Alternative C3
will
seems
get-
to me the
yeah.
one that could most easily be reversed.
yeah, and at that time, whether we want to go back to the same existing configuration or just leave it open with a striped median
Yeah.
instead of put it back.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm looking at 3, both, did we label them A and B? Yes, we did. So College is 40 miles an hour,
Correct.
right? And is that, do you think an advisable rate of speed?
Well, these speed limits were established based on speed studies.
Okay, and we know that, as you said, what is it, how many thousands of new
Yes,
residences are being built?
currently, there's about 1,700 units or 1,800 units
Under,
built.
yeah,
And future, within 10 years, we're adding another 5,800 units.
and I know we're looking at that as a high growth area. so,
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah. So and then I would wonder, with new residences on College, if 40 is still going to be the appropriate speed, but coming off of College onto University, and it's 35 right around a park.
Yes.
Okay. It just seems to me, and are we beyond questions? May I? Okay. Okay. Well, I have a comment then to make. It seems to me that the traffic right next to a park with kids and people and dogs should be slower than 35 miles an hour. And I'm sure with a crosswalk, that would help us get there. But the raised crosswalk would get us there. And to me, the raised crosswalk makes sense. It's safer, and, all we need is one tragedy, and then it makes a lot of sense. So to me, that the alternate with the raised crosswalk, which is 3A, makes the most sense, and especially considering all the growth that is occurring right now and the anticipated growth.
If I may just comment back on your
Please.
question. Couple of things. As far as the speed limit is concerned, these speed limit studies were done in 2020. They're usually good for 5 or 7 years. However, whenever we have a new development that physically change or alter the existing road conditions, we can restudy the speed limit once, like the median island. The other thing is, if you probably recall, the last year, State Senate Bill 43 was passed by the State Senate, and that gives the authority to local agencies to decrease the posted speed limit by 5 miles per hour without doing a study. However, this will take effect in this April, and at that time, also in April, we can revisit the area and see if we can lower the speed.
Okay, thank you for that information.
I had noticed the same thing in terms of driver behavior and going from one speed limit turning into another. And I see the clear need to create opportunities. In fact, there had been one resident that called very many times when she would see people that were parked illegally. And I'm sure this contributed to how we can create a solution. I think that going out of our way to have a lot of parking beyond that, I don't think would be very helpful. I also didn't see how many of those would be designated as ADA parking spaces. It just said 42 spaces. And as mentioned, the fact that we will have a regional park that will have its own dog park will reduce the stress on this park. And I think it would not be wise to make an expense on such a great scale where we may feel like we overdid it in one need.
And when we install on-street parking, we usually do not designate ADA spaces. So,
But the other ones mentioned, so that's why I was.
yeah, the other ones would have it, yes.
How many currently exist of ADA?
The existing ones are two. I'm sorry, let me just double check here for, the existing ones you're talking about, the one we have?
Yes.
Two ADA spaces,
Two?
yes.
So-
A total of 13.
Okay, so if we did put on-street parking, we could designate perhaps one or two more of the 13
Yes, we
as
can.
ADA.
Yes, we can.
So what we're talking about is we're saying, gee, it's going to take the impact, when we build those other parks, it'll take impact off of that. Except additionally, we're building another park, we're also building lots of residences that will be going to that park and to this. So yeah, we're building another park, but we're also building significant number of residential. Okay, so dwellings. So to me, it's probably not going to really take too much off of that. I think it's going to even out. Because I mean, when we look at how many dwelling units we are building in that area, it's a big number. So, okay, thank you for the information.
Do we have other comments? Comments from our city manager, our city clerk? At this time, we will transition to our second subject, which will be the crosswalks on El Paseo.
We're now starting the second part of this session is the LPCA mid-block crossings. We'll go over why we did the study and examine the existing raised crosswalks, making recommendations, and also going over the new crosswalk alternatives and recommendations, and the overall total cost summary. Merchants on El Paseo have requested city to install additional raised crosswalk on El Paseo between Highway 74 and San Pablo Avenue. We divided this study into two parts. We examined the existing crosswalks in the area and you can see their feasibility of continuing to keeping them. And also we looked into the feasibility of installing 3 new crosswalks within the section between Highway 74 and San Pablo. The current existing crosswalk, we have one on El Paseo between San Pablo and Larkspur Lane. The other one is on El Paseo also between Larkspur Lane and San Luis Rey. And the third one is on Larkspur Lane between El Paseo and Shadow Mountain. That's the one in front of El Paseo Hotel. All 3 locations are currently equipped with rectangular rapid flashing beacons, also known as RRFPs. Here's a look at the existing crosswalk in front of the Hotel El Paseo. So based on the study that we performed, the staff is recommending to keep the 3 existing raised crosswalks on El Paseo. However, staff is also recommending replacing the existing RRFP units at all 3 locations, replace them with new units. With the exception on Larkspur Lane, because of the fact the existing sidewalk on the west side of the street is very narrow. So the installation of the RFP units would really limit the space, and it may be an issue with people meeting ADA requirements, and also putting the RFP units very close to this street, making it prone to being hit by high-profile vehicles. So in order to mitigate this issue, we are recommending of installing a bulb out, or also known as a curb extension, on both sides of the street to give us the space we need to accommodate an ADA compliant sidewalk, as well as be able to install our equipments without forcing it to be hit by vehicles. So with the three existing crosswalks in the El Paseo area, again, we are recommending to keep the two on El Paseo and replace the existing RRFP units. And that comes at a cost of $130,000 per location. And on Larkspur, because we are recommending installation of the bulb outs, we're looking at $240,000 at that location of improvement. So total improvements on existing race crosswalks, that comes to about $500,000. Now we're moving to the second section, was its evaluation of potential installation of new raised crosswalks. We divided the section of the road into three segments. The first segment is El Paseo between Acateo Drive and Sage Lane. The second segment is El Paseo between Sage Lane and Low Pine Lane. And the third segment is the one between Low Pine Lane and San Pablo Avenue. In the study here, we did actually do field observations of existing roadway conditions as well as pedestrian crossing patterns. We took traffic volume counts, and we also analyzed the 5-year accident history, vehicles versus pedestrians. So based on our observations, the accident history had no vehicle pedestrian accidents in the past 5 years. And the existing field conditions for the section between Acateo Drive and Sage Lane, it's 800 foot long. And the fronting development consists of mainly a lot of restaurants and a jewelry shop there. And there are two pedestrian connecting passages that takes you to the parking lot behind the shops. There are no driveways along this segment of the road. We also did an outreach, and we met with merchants in the area. And we have generally a very strong support from merchants who are fronting this section of the road. So we are recommending here is to install a raised crosswalk with a new RRFP units, similar to the ones existing now. This comes at a cost of $470,000 if we only go with asphalt type of raised crosswalk. The second location is El Paseo between Sage Lane and Low Pine Lane. And again, the accident history is the 5-year accident history. There are no vehicle pedestrian accidents. And this segment of the roadway is 675 foot long. And it's located, again, the fronting developments are mainly retail stores with 2 jewelry shops in the area. And also there is a 2 pedestrian passages that connects the street with the parking lots behind the shops. There are no driveway also along this segment of the road. And again, we did the outreach here and we got majority support from merchants in the area. Also, staff is recommending the construction of a raised pedestrian crosswalk within this segment along with the RRFP units. And again, the cost here, if we just go with regular asphalt only, it's going to come out to $470,000. The third segment is the one, El Paseo between Low Pine Lane and San Pablo. No accidents reported in the last 5 years. And field conditions revealed that the total length of this area is about 510 feet. And it's, again, the fronting developments are retail stores and a coffee shop there. And this same thing connects shopping centers with the interior of another shopping center in the area. However, there is a driveway that fronts Paseo on this segment that is almost located halfway between the 2 intersections. Because of this driveway, it will be very difficult or non-compliant, actually, if we install another raised crosswalk in the area, because that will put us closer to one end than the other end. And that could be a problem not only in terms of meeting requirements, but also pedestrian crossing patterns. So we are not recommending installation of a raised crosswalk on this segment of El Paseo. So here's a summary of costs involved in with those options. So on El Paseo, between Octavio and Sage Lane, as well as El Paseo between Sage Lane and Lopine, we're recommending the installation again with the raised crosswalk with the RRFP units. This comes out to about $470,000 each, or a total of $942,000 for the new crosswalk. We were looking into also other surface treatments that we can use, obviously, to make it look nice and beautiful in our neighborhood. However, we looked at several options here, and we're thinking like if you use a high visibility ladder type crosswalk, that will add up at $27,000 per location to the cost of $470,000. If we use brick pavers with only one color, we're looking at adding $32,000 per location. If we go with new decorative flowers art paint, similar to what's existing now, we're looking at an additional $34,000 per location. Or if we go with interlocking pavers with different, with multicolored designs, that will add up to $35,000 plus to the cost of. I reached out to a couple of local, not local, but actually a couple of pavers vendors and obtained some information. And there, as you can see, there's a lot of different colors and styles that we can work with if we decide to go with interlocking pavers. There are some examples how it looks like for if you only go with one color bricks, and these are just really very small examples of the possibilities of doing designs, different designs with interlocking pavers in the area. This table here really summarizes gives us the cost based on what is the final finish selected by council to go with. So if we're looking at the two existing crosswalks on El Paseo, if we go with the asphalt only, remove what we have now, we're looking at about, as I said earlier, $130,000 each. If we go with the high visibility crosswalk, the ladder type, that comes out to 57,000 each. If we go with the brick pavers, that's going to be 162,000. If we go with the decorative paints, that's going to be 164,000. And interlocking pavers will bring it up to more than 165,000. On the existing crosswalk on Larkspur, because we're recommending the curb extension, the cost will be a little higher at 240, 267, 272, 274, and 275 plus respectively. On the new proposed crosswalks on Paseo, the two segments that we just recommended. Again, if we go with asphalt only, the cost will be 470,000 each. And the ladder type will be 497,000 each. Brick pavers comes out to about 502,000. Decorative flowers is 504,000. And if we go with the interlocking pavers, that's going to be over 505,000.
When we say over,
Good.
do we have any idea, any ballpark?
15 to 20,000 at most, depending on the
For each?
for each location, depending on the final design we select.
Okay, thank you.
I just want to make sure I'm understanding that correctly, because interlocking pavers is the only one that has a plus. So are you saying that the base price will be what's here, but there will probably be something added to that for design, potentially added if we get real exotic? What's the significance of the plus?
Oh, the plus is, again, depends on the final design we select. The time and labor involved in the design. When I spoke with the vendors, Again, they were telling me of the complexity or how far we want to go, what options. Obviously, the more time they spend on the design and preparation, that will add up to the cost of.
So, and the key, for example, and keep that picture of samples there. Can we go back to that
Oh, okay.
picture?
Sure.
The one on the right is mostly a single color with some variation, but it has a pattern. So is that interlocking or not interlocking?
The one at the bottom is not, actually, both of them are not interlocking. And because we don't, when I spoke with the vendor, if I go back one more time, here is what the interlocking looks like. And it's not just hexagonal like this one, but they also come in different shapes, tall, wider, and different colors. However, they can, and this is speaking of additional costs, if we really go with interlocking and we decide to make it look like just a regular brick, they can also come up with something similar to that.
So maybe it should be obvious, but it's not. What's the key definition that makes pavers interlocking? Because just from a layman's perspective, when I see a pattern like this, it seems like it's interlocking, but you're telling me these are not examples of interlocking.
No,
So-
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
No, they're not, but again, when I showed these, actually, they were given to me by the vendor that I talked to, and he was just telling me we can do something similar like this with our interlocking.
Because it looks like if we prefer pavers, we can do something fairly attractive without crossing the interlocking threshold. That's what I'm trying to find.
It's possible, yes. If we use 2 or 3 different colors, we can come up with some design,
Right.
attractive design.
And just for the benefit of the full council, the ATP subcommittee did ask for the opportunity to look at some samples. So it's possible that examining a wide array of samples would help us bring back a final proposal to the council for action. But of course, feedback today will tell us which avenues are worth delving into in greater detail.
So on this committee, was it already decided that we needed to add 2 additional crosswalks? Or is that up for
That's the
discussion as well?
We concurred with the recommendation just presented.
Okay, just wanted to make.
If I can add to that, and you mentioned that it was brought to El Paseo BID, and the reason they had requested the raised crosswalks, and if we all remember when it was first put in, it was, ooh, I don't like that, that's new. And now everybody loves them because it slows people down and it lends itself to safety on the street and probably to people looking in windows and buying things. But the El Paseo BID board was very interested in having raised crosswalks on the other end of the street after they saw how well they functioned on the east end, because they want to slow people down. And we did talk, I know you mentioned the vehicle pedestrian collisions, but a lot of times it's just car to car. And if we can avoid that, that's a bonus as well. No, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Following up on that same concept of pedestrian injuries versus car to car, I had a meeting with a local business owner and they mentioned that at one point the city had the crosswalk lanes for to go along Prickly Pear, and that at some point, they don't know what renovations were put into place, and they no longer have the lines. When people coming in, just as mentioned, from university or from College Drive onto University, the speed on Portola as they turn into El Paseo from that green light is very fast. And I also saw, just as they mentioned, people that didn't see the crosswalk and they would jaywalk in the middle of the street. Whether we have had our California neighbors in the Coachella Valley said, you know, you really shouldn't crosswalk. We've got people that are international visitors where that is not a big issue to them. This business owner also mentioned that they have seen vehicle collisions where a woman was dragging her bumper along the way. And I think that as this continues to be revised or explored, that we look at additional crosswalks where this would be a safety issue all the way down there where they have had collisions.
That's east of San Pablo you're talking about.
It's right at Portola.
All right, Portola, okay.
Okay, if we proceed with doing these crosswalks, which requires asphalt work, is it planned to be done in conjunction with repaving the entire street?
Actually, yes, if we get directions from you, we can, I'm working with Ryan Geller on this, and we can probably get him hopefully at the same time together.
And will that, are these cost estimates based on that? Are these estimates based on a standalone project?
Yes, they are, well, it's yes, it is standalone to answer your question.
So if we do wrap it up into the entire project of repaving El Paseo, does that give us any cost savings?
Probably will do because we're probably going to end up using the same contractor and maybe get a discount by him hiring his own subcontractor.
Any idea
But-
when El Paseo is scheduled? I mean, this is maybe outside, but when it's rescheduled or scheduled to be repaved?
I've asked staff to move it up to this year if possible. We're getting some complaints about the condition of the pavement there, so Ryan has been given the go-ahead and to do some design work. So the idea would be to try to handle it this year in the off-season and coordinate both of these projects together.
Perfect, thank you.
My last question is, what would the grand total be with this document as presented, looking at the 3 existing and adding the 2 new? I see the options, again, from just the asphalt to how decorative we want it to be. Can we look at overall budget costs depending on what the options would be?
Sure, and I think I have this at the very end here. Again, this is the grand total for all 5 locations, the 3 existing plus the 2 new ones. And based on the final finish selection, if we go with asphalt only, it comes out to about 1.44 million. Ladder type is 1.575. Brick pavers, 1.6 million. Decorative flowers is about 10,000 more, 1.610. And for the interlocking pavers, again, 1,615,000 plus.
That's part of what my question is. Let's say if it's asphalt only with the decorative flowers, as we look at our exceptions, because part of this is also got a lot of questions from residents looking at, are we using our budget wisely? How can we accommodate using our existing funds to spread the support that we have for our streets on El Paseo? So if, as you mentioned, option 1 or alternative 2, if we can see the overall cost of what you're proposing for each one would be helpful in making decisions.
Because the decorative flowers, similar to what we have existing. I'm sorry.
I want to just add something to this because we're talking about what it's going to cost to do this. And absolutely, it's got to be right in front of us and we've got to be thinking about. We got to look at the bigger picture and the whole picture because the maintenance on asphalt is continual and ongoing. The ladder striping, the same. It will have to be redone as it wears and it's no longer popping. Brick pavers, they last a long time and you don't have to redo them. Decorative flowers, we're talking about maintenance again. And when they get a little dull, we're going to want to make them pop again. Interlocking pavers or any type of pavers, the maintenance on them is minuscule. And if something should happen, you take one out and you put one in. So when we look at this and what we decide we want to do, let's make sure that we factor in the ongoing maintenance of each of these types of projects, because that's going to be critically important. It's going to cost us way out into the future. And let's look at how we can cut those costs. My experience has been having a parking lot that I have to either slurry over, which I used to do, and it's expensive and it's dirty and it's messy and it's lousy, or putting in pavers. Pavers is the way to go. Low
Actually,
maintenance.
Yeah, we have looked into that briefly, and again, like you mentioned, interlocking pavers actually is the most durable, and bricks are the most durable ones with a lifespan of over 40 years. Other options like the flowers, for example, is probably one of the most expensive to maintain as they fade quickly and they have to be really maintained at all times. And it costs very much to also install it. And other options are the normal ones like, again, asphalt only, obviously, that's not a good option, but high decorative crosswalks, all these other options with striping or paint would require literally annual expensive maintenance budget for them to maintain. Plus, it's sometimes we have to hire specialized companies, as probably our staff will not be able to maintain some of these options.
I think that's an excellent point, and when we do revisit the issue, that would be very helpful to look at our long-term investment and projections.
I think it was covered.
So our intention will be to be back to you on April 11th with a recommendation moving forward, trying to coordinate with the design work that Ryan Gaylor is currently doing. So it'll be the next step.
At this point, we conclude our study session. It is 3:42, and we will come back at time 4 o'clock for a closed session, or do we break right now into closed session?
It was
For
noticed for
3:30?
3:30, so I defer to Anthony.
Yeah, you would adjourn us or recess us into closed session.
We recess into closed session. Thank you.